Hello and happy Sunday. I hope that everybody has been doing well. It's been a couple weeks, I think, since I've made a video. I've been very busy and it seems like life kind of gets a little bit crazy. But today I'm going to actually try to hurry up and make a batch of granola before the electricity goes out. We're actually supposed to have a blizzard today, so the electricity will end up going out. I know it. They're calling for 60-mile-an-hour winds. So anyway, I'm going to go on and make a batch of granola for the week before that gets going. And we're living around candlelight. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to do that. It can be a little bit time consuming, but it's pretty much just time in the oven, which is really not that long. It's just 30 minutes, and then every 10 minutes you're going to pull it out and stir it around the pan a little bit, but that's it. So here you go. I'll show you how we can go on and make some granola. So what I like to use is the old-fashioned oats, and when I was buying my oatmeal, I noticed that there was not a lot of options for the old-fashioned oats, which are a lot bigger. So I bought a box of this too, which are old-fashioned. It can be a little bit more expensive, but I mean, really, for the amount of granola that you're gonna get, it's not really that bad. So this has 8 packs, and actually one box is almost about as much oatmeal that you're gonna need, because you need 4 cups. But I do have enough in my my little tub right here anyway. So I've got right at 4 cups. I measured before I got started here. So you're gonna get 4 cups of your old-fashioned oats. Again, those are the big ones. They've not, the bigger oats, they've not been processed to be smaller, like instant oats. You know, the instant oats that you can make in the microwave. They've kind of been through like a food processor. They're a lot smaller. These are whole oats. So I'm just gonna dump the rest of that in there. So I've got 4 cups of oats, and then to that I'm gonna add a quarter teaspoon of salt, just regular salt. Salt is going to kind of cut down on the sweetness. So I'm going to be sweetening this today with honey. I've also made it with maple syrup, which is, I feel, a little bit less sweet than honey. Or you can do it with maple syrup and honey, kind of a mix between the two. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to use honey to sweeten it. So along with that, I went ahead and melted before I got started about a quarter of a cup to a third of a cup of coconut oil. You can also, if you want, you don't have to use coconut oil. You can use canola oil, you can use olive oil. I wouldn't use extra virgin. Well, I guess you could. This has enough honey in it where it's not, the extra virgin olive oil isn't gonna make it taste more like a savory. And there's not so much oil anyway. But I just happen to have a lot of coconut oil on hand. So that's why I'm using that. And so like I said, I went ahead and I melted my oil and then added my honey. And I like to do my oil and honey together. It just kind of makes it a little bit easier to get out of the cup. So to that, once I pour my oil and honey into my oats, I'm just going to stir that up really good. Make sure that all of the oats are covered. And really, you know, with granola, you don't have to follow an exact recipe. It's kind of what you like. You know, if I add pecans or walnuts to mine and you don't like pecans or walnuts, you don't have to. You can add almonds or pistachios or peanuts, or you can just completely leave that portion out. Sometimes I've made this with sesame seeds. Today I don't have any sesame seeds, so I'm gonna just leave that out. Last time that I made this, I added a little bit of chia seeds, but I think I ran out of that too, so I just didn't plan on adding that. Okay, so now that I have my oats pretty much well coated with the honey and coconut oil, and I'll show you. I mean, it just kind of looks like a little bit of a sticky mess. like that, you know. So I've got the oats coated pretty well with that. I'm going to add a half of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And a little bit more is okay if you get a little bit more. I guess you could add up to about a teaspoon. I probably wouldn't do that, but it's just going to be kind of a background flavor. So mix that up a little bit. And the next thing I have is some pumpkin pie spice. I'm going to add a teaspoon. I'm going to start with a teaspoon of that. If you don't like pumpkin pie spice, you can do cinnamon. But I happen to actually think that the pumpkin pie spice is going to complement the very last ingredient that I add, which I'm not going to add until I'm completely done at the end, after it's done baking. So, but anyway, the pumpkin pie spice complements that pretty good. So I've got that in there, the pumpkin pie spice, and then I'm going to add, put some measuring cups around here somewhere. I thought so. I did. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to add about maybe a half of a cup of just pumpkin seeds, plain pumpkin seeds. And these are salted, but other than that, there's nothing special. So I've got a quarter measuring cup here. I'm just going to add 2 of those to make it a half of a cup. And then also, I'm going to do a half of a cup of pecan pieces. And these again are just regular pecan pieces. These don't have any salt added. They're just plain pecans, which you would get like if you're making like a pecan pie, or, you know, I added a half of a cup, but I think I'm going to do closer to 3/4 of a cup. There we go. Get that mixed in a little bit. I like this with pecans. I've made it with pistachios a couple times. That's really good. That's a really good, makes a good granola. I've made it with peanuts too, which is good. There's really, like I was saying in the beginning, there's no right or wrong. There's no exact recipe. It's pretty much what you like. And now I'm going to add, I've got some shredded coconut. This is sweetened. Sometimes I have gotten the unsweetened, but this time I just got the sweetened. So I'm going to add closer to 3/4 of a cup, just like I did with the pecans. There we go. So about 3/4 of a cup of shredded coconut. If you wanted this to be less sweet, you could get just the plain coconut that's not sweetened, or you could cut down a little bit on your honey. Instead of doing around 2/3 of a cup, you could do closer to a half of a cup. That would be fine. But really, this has so much oats in there, or so many oats, that I don't feel like it's too incredibly sweet. Then if you like a super sweet granola, you could do a little bit more, but you would just have to be mindful that you probably would want to stir it, I would think, a little bit more than just every 10 minutes in the oven, because, you know, sugar does have a tendency to burn, if not, especially honey, if you don't pay attention to it while it's in the oven. So that, I think, is about it. I do have some raisins that I'm going to add, but I'm going to do it after my granola is done cooking. That, and then the very last thing that I'll add is powdered peanut butter. So this kind of ends up being a peanut butter and honey granola. And as I was saying, the pumpkin pie spice, I feel like that and the peanut butter goes together really well. You wouldn't think so. I mean, you think pumpkin pie and peanut butter, but it really does. It tastes good. So I've got everything mixed up now, and it smells good. It smells kind of like what I want it to be like. So now I'm going to put it on. I've got a pretty big cookie sheet here. I think this is 11 by, yeah, this This is a 12 by 17. So on that, on my pan, I've got just a piece of parchment paper. And I did just kind of rub a little bit of coconut oil on it before I got started on my video. Because having the honey on your oats will make it stick a little bit. So I'm just gonna turn this out onto my parchment paper. You could also use a silicone baking mat, but I would still grease that a little bit because the granola will stick to that too when you're trying to stir it around. Not too terribly bad, but it will stick a little bit, enough to aggravate you. Especially when you're completely done and you go to wash your silicone mat and you've got burnt honey on there or just cooked honey. It can be a little bit hard to clean up. So this makes a pretty good amount of granola. And I mean, sometimes it'll last me more than a week too. It just really depends. I go in spurts of what I have for lunch at work. Sometimes it's faster for me just to mix up some yogurt and granola and put that in a little bowl and take it to work and eat that for lunch. Other times, if I'm not in too much of a hurry, I have time to make soup or something and put that in a thermos. So, but this, I feel like this is a really good lunch, or you could do it for breakfast. Funny thing, speaking of yogurt and granola, the other day I had started, I did make a video on how to make yogurt at home, because that's something else that's very easy. But halfway through my video, my cat decided that she was going to work on undecorating the Christmas tree. So all you could really hear were Christmas ornaments falling off the tree and rolling across the floor. So that video is going to be redone. Next time I have to make yogurt, which will probably be just in a couple days, I'll make another video of that. Because that's another thing that you wouldn't believe how easy it is to do. So I'm just getting getting all of my granola just kind of spread around and about as even as I can. It's going to be, I guess, kind of a thick layer. There are a lot of ingredients in here. So kind of get my little spatula cleaned off here before I put this in the oven. So I'm gonna cook it in a 350-degree oven, which I've already got preheated. And then after 10 minutes, I'm going to pull it out and stir it really quickly. Just kind of, stir it around so that the stuff that's on the bottom can get equally toasted and cooked. So like I said, you're gonna do that every 10 minutes. But right now I'm gonna go and put this in the oven, 350 degrees. So as I was saying about my raisins, if you don't want raisins in your granola, you don't have to add that. I do like a little bit of dried fruit. You could also do, I don't know, maybe like some dried cherries or craisins. I would probably, I don't know that I would do the peanut butter powder at the end if I did cherries or craisins, but it seems to go really well with the raisins and especially with the honey. So I'm gonna go on and pause this, and then in 10 minutes, I'm going to pull out the granola and stir it, and then I will show you how everything looks at the end. So my timer just went off. My granola has been in the oven for 10 minutes. I'm gonna grab it out and I'm gonna give it a quick stir and let you see what that looks like. And then we'll put it back in the oven for another 10 minutes. It already smells pretty good in here. It smells like fall, even though it's winter. So, it's just starting to get a little bit toasty, and all I'm gonna do is just stir it around the pan, kind of get everything that was on the bottom moved to the top, just so that it all gets cooked evenly, or about as evenly as it can. I'm gonna do this one time and then put it back in the oven for another 10 minutes. Do this again, and then put it back in the oven for the final 10 minutes. So we'll end up doing 2 stirs in the 30 minutes that it cooks. So that takes care of that. Just get it kind of, move it around a little bit more before I put it back in. It really does smell good. And I especially like that smell of the pumpkin spice, but it also does smell good if I just use plain cinnamon. So, you know, some people don't like coconut. In granola, actually, you know, I think that you almost can't feel the texture. You know, I think a lot of times people don't like coconut because of the texture of it, but when it's in granola, I feel like it's toasted enough that, you know, along with the oats and everything else, it just kind of blends in and you don't get that texture factor that you don't really like. So I'm gonna go on and put this back in the oven and go another 10 minutes, and then I'll come back on when the whole baking process is done so that I can show you what we do after everything is done baking. We'll add our raisins and our powdered peanut butter. So the final 10 minutes is done. My granola has baked in the oven for a total of 30 minutes, and I'm ready to show you the finished product. So I've just pulled it out of the oven. It's still really hot, and the oats, I haven't done the final stir, so I'm gonna do a final stir on the pan, and then I'll add them back into the bowl so that I can put my last little touches on, which will be about a cup of raisins. I think I did about 3/4 to a cup of raisins. And then I'm gonna do about maybe 1/4 of a cup, 3/8 of a cup of my powdered peanut butter, which really is just about my favorite part, because that with the taste of the honey is just it's perfection. It's what, in my opinion, what granola should be. So I'm getting this stirred around, and now I'm just gonna put it back in the bowl that I originally got everything mixed up in. It's just easier to do that way. Less dirty dishes. So this part can get a little bit messy. One thing that I should have said, depending on your the size of your pan that you're using, it may take longer than 30 minutes. This one, I believe I said it was a 12 by 17 inch cookie sheet. So if yours is a little bit smaller, then obviously your layer of granola is gonna be a little bit thicker. So it's probably gonna take a little bit longer. Now, if your pan is slightly bigger than mine and your layer is thinner, then it won't take, you know, it might not take quite 30 minutes. It's just one of those things you gotta eyeball. If it looks like it's not done, you can always throw it in, you know, after that final 10 minutes. If it looks like it's not toasted as much as you would like, you can put it back in the oven. I wouldn't do another 10 minutes. I would probably do around 5 and then check that and see if it's about where you want it. So almost done. I usually, right when I get almost everything off of the pan, then I'll just pick up the parchment paper and kind of put the rest in the bowl that way. But obviously, if you pick up the parchment paper with a whole load of granola on there, you're gonna end up with a mess on your counter and probably on your floor. And that would not be good. So I'm almost done. One thing I like about making it at home, you really do have control over everything that's in it. You know, like if you've got some gluten allergy, you know, you can make sure that you use gluten-free oats. Some granolas are sweetened with corn syrup, so if you've got a corn allergy, then you don't have to worry about this having corn syrup in it, because all it has is honey, or whatever you choose whatever you choose to sweeten it with. So let me put this pan down for a second. All right. So I've got everything, all of my granola put in my bowl, and it's a really pretty golden color. You see how pretty that is. So the final touches, I will add, I've got right at about a cup of raisins. So put those in there and just mix it up. Get it evenly. This doesn't have to be distributed just perfectly because I'm gonna be putting it in another container anyway, which will obviously mix it up too. So just get those folded in really good. And then once I get the raisins folded in, then I'll add my peanut butter. One thing I like about this peanut butter, I just found this at the store, well, I guess a couple of years ago, but I don't really buy it that often. And then, I don't know, a few months ago when I started making granola again, I used to make it all the time, and then I went through, you know, a stage where I wasn't making it that often, and I felt like it was almost as, you know, just as easy to buy it. Didn't have enough time to make stuff at home. But then when I started making it again, I thought, you know, I really like peanut butter in my granola. I like the flavor of peanut butter. So I love having this. And if you're conscious, you know, you don't want too much fat, this doesn't have hardly any in there. You know, for 2 tablespoons, it's just got 1.5 grams. So stuff is good. So I'm gonna start off by adding, I've got an eighth of a cup measure right here. So I'm gonna start off by doing just a 1/4 cup, just a little bit more, and stir that around and see what I think. You don't want to add too much because then it's going to be too powdery, and you know it's going to your peanut butter will take over the flavor of the honey. You want just enough so that the peanut butter and the honey complement one another. And it already just, that peanut butter, adding that to the warm granola, the smell is amazing. I think I'll end up adding just a little bit more. You know, once I get this turned around in here in the bowl, I see that the bottom could use just a little bit. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more, not quite another 1/8 of a cup. About like that. Mix that around. So this was 4 cups of oats. So your dry ingredients were the oats, pecans, pumpkin seeds, and coconut, shredded coconut. And then your wet ingredients was the coconut oil. Like I said, you could use canola oil, olive oil. So we've got your coconut oil, honey, and a little bit of vanilla, some pumpkin pie spice or cinnamon, whatever you prefer. And then at the very end, raisins and powdered peanut butter. So now I've got a huge jar I'm going to put everything in. I made some granola closer to the end of last week, so I still have some left over. I probably won't be able to fit all of this in my jar. You know what, actually, I don't think I'm gonna I'll just get a different container to put this in. Go through this first. So, but this will show you, this is after a couple days. It's still really good. This is the batch that I made just a few days ago. Yeah, stores really well in a jar. So this is super easy to make, and it's very tasty. I hope that you give it a try. And if you have any questions, just send me a message and I will do my best to help. Thank you so much for watching my video, and have a wonderful day.